Hey everybody, this is Vincent, founder of Three Nails InfoSec. Today I'm joined by two legends in my eyes, Greg and John, founders of White Knight Labs, cybersecurity firm. Greg and John, will you tell us a little bit about yourselves?
Sure,
Sure.
Greg.
My name is Greg Hatcher. My background is I was a Green Beret in 5th Special Forces Group for 7 years. Went over all over the Middle East doing combat deployments. My job in the Special Forces team, it's also called the Operational Detachment Alpha, was the 18 Echo. So 18 means Special Forces, Echo means communicator. So routing, switching, high side, low side VoIP, cryptography, managing the radios for the team. That was all my bread and butter. So after I got out in 2017, I went right to offensive cyber. I met John while working at a little boutique shop called VDA right here in Grand Rapids. We worked on a bunch of cool projects while over there, consulted with Microsoft around improving the kernel security for the Windows 10 operating system. We did some EDR testing as well for one of the main EDR providers. And after that, I went over as a assistant contractor and led a small traveling 3-man red team attacking America's critical infrastructure. Then about 3 years ago, we started White Knight Labs, and we really hit our stride. I would say in the year 2021, we're a red teaming shop. We do a ton of web app API cloud though as well, and we have a very mature physical access operations team. So without getting too much into the company, that was my background. But I'll pass over to John now.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Greg. Yeah, if you guys know me, I have a pretty interesting background here. So I'm one of the co-founders, John Stigerwalt. Interesting background. I come from an IT help desk specialist. You know, played fixing computers for 3-4 years. Um, Junior sysadmin. You know, fixing Active Directory. You know, working on firewalls. Kind of got my feet wet in security, and then you know, moved into a security lead position, and then played CISO. And I was CISO for a small sub-mortgage company, and controlled 9 different locations across the world. We're in a pretty good sized team. Really hated that. Did a ton of NIST, PCI, SOC 2 Type 2 compliance work. Terrible stuff, right? You guys have seen me before. You know I talk about it all the time. It's dreadful at times. So especially you know day after day grueling on compliance. Left that and went right to pen testing. And that's where you know I met Greg at VDA, and you know became a senior pretty fast. You know OSCE, OSCP, all that kind of stuff. And then I left VDA, went did you know into cover operations, did red teaming, and I worked for a company called F-Secure, and I ran the US team, worked with the UK team for the red team and the internal pen test team, and great company. And we tested a lot of major Fortune 10s, 50s across the world on code operations. And at that point, that was the birth of like the White Knight Labs red team, where we figured, you know what, we can do this better. So we built our own team by scratch. You know, we built our own internal pen testing team, and we took everything that all the other consulting shops we've worked for that they've done wrong, you know, built out the gold standard of servicing. And I think that's where White Knight Labs kind of really comes into play today as a top tier penetration testing company. Is you know we work for so many different consulting shops and have taken all the you know the pains and the grunts and the issues and try to really you know mitigate those, you know, make that a you know really good company. So today we're about I think what 31 strong, Greg, right? We've teams across everything, right? So we were on separate team for internal pen testing, external web application, API, embedded hardware, IoT, red teaming. Web application obviously you know is our biggest team. We're not just US based, we're also international as well. I think we're 17 on the US side and maybe 15 to 16 now on the international side. We're about split 50-50. And most of our contracts in the US, but we do contracts all across the world, so which is pretty cool. So we're growing at a very fast and very significant rate every year, which is great. We're very fortunate for that. So
Wow. Yeah. Yep. So that validates the legend status. It's pretty neat to watch you guys grow so rapidly too, John. Obviously, you and I have worked together for 2 or 3 years now, and probably, I mean, it sounds like around the foundations of White Knight, which has been really awesome to watch. What are some of the sort of key insights and revelations you guys have gathered throughout the course of growing White Knight?
good, Greg. I'll let you have that one.
Yes. Yeah. So some of the key insights is where there is the biggest demand, it seems that there's the least amount of people to do the work. So there's a huge demand for OT penetration testing right now, embedded penetration testing, especially for embedded medical devices. Especially, so the FDA just pushed regulations down that if you are going to bring an embedded medical device to market, it needs to have a software bill of materials and SBOM, and and it actually needs to be penetration tested. So if you could take like the entire offensive community and put like a percentage to how many people can do like high end embedded work, I'd put it at like 1%, but everyone can do like Active Directory and password spray for external penetration tests, right? So the focus on training and education is very skewed toward like hack the box, try hack me, learn how to do internal external penetration testing. Whereas the market really needs more embedded folks. We need more OT folks that can beat on OT networks while keeping boxes up, right? Because like availability is huge for OT as well as for safety. So the days of just like hiring someone to do IPT and EPT, internal external penetration testing, are kind of over. We need people that can do really high-end web app API and cloud work. And then even within the cloud, there's GCP, Azure, AWS. So those are 3 different skill sets. The longer time goes on, the more things there are to specialize in. And that's why John kind of alluded to this when he was talking about the company during our intro. The culture at WKL is very similar to a special forces team. Like everyone has a broad set of skills, but then they have their one thing that they go very deep in. So like John, for example, is very good at lower development. We have guys that do just web app and API. We have teams for just Azure, like led by Shrug, Soblin, Ronick, Parmar. They just wrote the offensive Azure course for WKL. So I would say those are some of the insights that I would bring to the table. Like long-term red team engagements are going away. We're seeing a lot of like 4-6 week red team engagements as well. But the bulk of our work is web app, API, and cloud. We're getting farther and farther away from the vanilla Active Directory internal penetration test and the external penetration test.
Sure. That's interesting. That isn't, yeah, I mean, the insight as far as honing in on individual skill sets in, moving away from the vanilla pen test. I mean, I think that's really interesting that you bring that up. What areas is White Knight currently honing? I guess you kind of named some of them, but you said OT is one of the more emerging areas that's requiring attention. I mean, are you guys doing anything else to bring, different types of service offerings to the market surrounding those types of things?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So our focus last year was like the web application and API, building that team out. But now we're building out the embedded team, the OT team, a mobile team as well. So if you do high-end mobile testing, that's going to set you way apart in the community because no one wants to test iOS mobile applications. It's miserable, right? We all know that. Someone wants to do the work. So if someone is willing to do the work, like they have a very fruitful career for sure.
Sure.
And then also something that we're getting into right now is attacking DevSecOps and like CI/CD pipelines. For example, we will play malicious developer. So say a fintech startup based in New York wants to hire a developer to do X, Y, and Z. They don't do a robust background check on that person. They bring in this developer. They start like backdooring the code. They set up persistence in the CI/CD pipeline, and then they get fired, but they still have access to the environment. We're executing a lot of engagements like that right now.
Okay.
Yeah, and to add on to that, so give Greg some credit here. So he spun up the entire OT team, the embedded team, the hardware team, all that by himself. So he hired everybody, and he really built a world-class team, and it's been highly successful. Some of the other service offerings that we do that are more traditional, right? We do the purple teaming, the red teaming, phishing, vishing. We do the physical engagements. Obviously, me and Greg lead that team directly together. We also offer the red team, the internal pen testing, external, all that kind of stuff. But what's really interesting this year is we've broken up red teams quite a bit. So we're offering not just a typical 6 to 8 week or 12 week engagement. We're offering mini red teams, or we call them insider threat assessments, which is super interesting. And then some of the biggest things or biggest operations we have this year is instead of starting like from a machine point of breach on a laptop, well, let's give us CD access in Azure. Let us try to go on-prem or still credentials, or maybe they opened up something to the network, or let us start from AWS or a database server, or a DMZ zone, something like that. And that's been really successful for a lot of clients. Another really good one is our social engineering aspect, where we're doing vishing and phishing tied together. We have a very world-class team of phishing and vishing experts. So highly successful.
Yeah,
that's been really good.
Nice.
We also do our Active Directory investigations have gotten even more top tier. Instead of just traditional security reviews, we're throwing in tons of different group policies, file share permissions, everything that could possibly compromise a client, for say an active engagement, things like that. So
Sure.
really good stuff there. So just trying to take it to the next level.
What's really weird is our top, I would call him a master fisherman, and his wife is our master fisherman.
Yep.
So it's the husband-wife duo at WKL that is executing the vast majority of our like fishing engagements. And when she makes that phone call, she gets creds 50% of the time.
Yep.
It's an insane kill rate. Yeah. It's numbers I like we have never seen before. She's so good.
That's right.
That's impressive. Send her over to the SC Village this year or something. That's awesome, man. What do you guys feel like, as a fellow entrepreneur of a cybersecurity firm, what do you think the natural progression looks like as far as service offerings go? What do you think upcoming cyber firms should focus on then if it's not traditional pen testing? And I agree with you that the landscape is totally shifting, and the emphasis on internal, external is like it's dying. Especially with pen testing being so it's a commodity, right? It's commoditized. What do you feel like the upcoming cyber firms should spend their time focusing on to build service offerings that are relevant today?
Yeah, if I would say specialize in a couple things, like specialize in embedded or OT or mobile. And then even being able to attack CI/CD pipelines or build DevSecOps programs from scratch. I know like getting into like the DevSecOps side of the house is like less offensive, but it's very, very useful to be able to like shift security left in the stack or even shift security right and like test and prod as well. Because oftentimes at WKL, we'll be doing a really robust web application penetration test, and we'll find systemic SQL injection or systemic RBAC issues across the entire web application, and it needs to be rewritten from the ground up. And that company will come to us, and they have so much technical debt that they just want a staff aug. Hey, come in. We're gonna have like a WKL engineer or software developer with us while we rebuild this thing from scratch, so these issues don't happen again. We're going to talk about like pre-commit security, version control security, secrets management, so we don't make those same exact mistakes again.
Yeah, and to add on to that, and Vince, Greg, you guys know how this goes. Is that other consulting shops say they can do everything, and most of the engineers are pretty well rounded, jack of all trades, but they don't specialize in that item. So we see a lot of other consulting shops, fall short of their mobile testing or web application testing, where the engineers, aren't, properly trained, to be experts. They're just average, right? And a lot of these companies have experienced average testing over and over and over around internal, external. So that's why we're seeing a drop in that. So companies who just need to check the box receive the same type of testing every year, and that's where we break away. We're not giving the same type of testing a year. We only hire senior principal engineers, and we only get one engineer per job, right? We have a standard day rate. We break away from that flat rate game of where it's bottom of the barrel kind of testing. So that's not who we are, right? We go for that gold standards. That's what really sets us apart from other consulting shops. And when it comes to service offerings, that's what we really go above and beyond. That's the goal. You know how it is, right? Client's going to hire a pen testing shop. They want top tier testing. I think last time I checked, there was 13 to 15,000 pen test shops registered as cybersecurity experts. I think there's only 50 shops. Yeah, only 50 shops I would say that go, I would say, top tier with us that I would recommend to another partnership. Other than that, the rest of the shops, there might be ones I don't know, but there's not a ton that would do top tier testing.
Yeah,
and we actually do recommend to our clients to rotate penetration testing vendors. So like the list is usually pretty short, like Red Siege, SpectreOps, Mandiant, Black Hills, like really good shops that if we're not there, we want our clients to be good in hand still. Sorry, Vince, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No. I was going to say, I'm going to give credit where credit is due, because Stigs, coming in, working alongside you, demonstrating that level of excellence you guys bring to your testing really stretched me as a tester a few years ago, and I continue to work under that sort of same progression, and I see the value of, what you brought working alongside you. So I definitely vouch for everything you guys are saying. I don't think there's any, BS to what you guys are talking about. You did mention like your employees are principal level. What is, if you guys wouldn't mind giving us a little insight into how do you find testers that are qualified in principal level? I mean, I
Ooh,
just feel
good question.
and are you comfortable doing international hiring? I think you mentioned you did, right, for those level of testers. And third question, is there any contingency issues, for some of your clients hiring some of these foreign nationals or whatever,
There's like a lot of questions there.
That was 3 questions at once. Okay, so I would say, So I would say that I do a lot of the hunting and stalking for top tier talent on LinkedIn. Certifications are a great foundation and start, but what I really want to see is experience doing the thing at a high level. So if they have written a lot of private tooling like Charles Hamilton, for example, or Sean Edwards writing the Donut shellcode generation framework. And he also worked with Ruben Boonin wrote Donut, and not Donut, but Deanvo, excuse me. So that would be what I would call like level, like evidence of exceptional ability. Something besides just getting certifications, like they've done the thing, they've contributed to the industry, they've spoken at conferences. If for on the web app, API, and cloud side, I would say I look for CVEs, if they do bug bounty, for example. So someone in their LinkedIn title has like, 41 CVEs, and then they have like a link to their GitHub, and you can go see all their private tooling. Like that speaks way more than saying that they have OSCP or something. And then as far as we do hire ACONUS contractors, ACONUS means outside the United States. All the same requirements apply. They need to show evidence of exceptional ability. And then we background check them as well. So it's not like we're just like throwing anyone in our client's network. Everyone is background checked here. And then you had a third question, whereas do we have clients that require our testers to be US based? And we absolutely do. That does happen sometimes.
Yeah. And to add on to Greg, so remember, a little bit unique to us is that we're not just consulting, we also teach as well, right? So we have our 3 main flagship courses, defensive development, which is our first one. It's been around for a long time now. The advanced red team operations course, or ATO. And we now have the offensive Azure operations course as well, right? And those 3 courses bring in a variety of people from beginners all the way to expert level. We've met some great people who have taken our courses, principal level engineers, sometimes, even higher than that, where they can probably teach the course, better than we could. And then that's how we bring people on as well. Our training courses have been a great way to kind of bring people in, even on the side as contractors, for certain cases, right? So that's been a huge approach. And we teach every month. This time we're doing every 2 months now because everything's going on demand. So, our own training platform is out there, which is pretty good. So that's another really good way to meet a ton of people.
Nice.
So piggybacking on what you just said, we also have challenges after we teach every single course that we do. For example, the offensive development course, the students get this immersive lab that's completely isolated and customized to themselves. If they do want to do the challenge lab, they have to bypass multiple top tier EDR products and then submit a report within 2 weeks of the class ending usually. Those people that submit those reports and can show us that they did loader development by hand typically get hired at WKL.
Sick.
Yep.
Whoever's listening, that's your shot.
Well, you know how it is, man. Like, there's not a ton of people that can bypass AV EDR, understand like what a loader is, or understand what is internal, but then also use that on their pen testing, along with their consulting job. It's more rare and rare today to see someone actually bypassing AVR and be successful at it, right? Not just, for example, pulling in different online tooling and hoping it works and mashing them together. I want looking for people who understand, bypassing AVR. It's a science. There's an art behind it, right? If it doesn't work, are you willing to accept the challenge and, go the extra mile? So
I had a guest on, I don't know if I should bring it up or not, but about 2 or 3 guests ago, another owner of a cyber firm, and at the end, he gave some hot takes discussing sort of the time of R&D it takes to develop those bypasses. And he kind of just had the opinion that you should share them after every engagement. You should disclose them to the vendor of the EDR, because otherwise you're sort of, if you're using the same initial access or bypass methods on every client, that's a problem. You shouldn't be doing that. And I disagreed to an extent, because those R&D hours are expensive for one, but also sometimes you come upon things you can't just burn that quickly. Do you guys have any short opinions on that one?
That's a good one. I completely disagree with that, because at the same time, if you're highly successful, that R&D work will work for 3 or 4 clients. Now, typically what happens is the AV vendors are not dumb. CrowdStrike, SentinelOne, Cortex, top 3 went out there, right? Sophos, XDR, they're not dumb. They can see what you're doing. They can see those payloads that are executing and doing those things, even though they may not be blocked at the time. They're flagged for inspection. Someone somewhere is going to pick up those binaries and burn them over time. So why not use them while you have them, right? Why waste all that time? And remember, not every initial access or every foothold works for the same client. There's always additional research going to that R&D time. No one payload is going to work for the next 50 clients. It doesn't work that way. I might reuse code. Sure, why not? That's my flavor of code, right? I wrote that. I'm going to reuse that code. I never give source code binary to the AV/ER vendors. I make them reverse it because that's their job.
Sure.
My job is to simulate a real ATP, right? I've been marked as an ATP multiple times now. If I'm not doing my job, that means the AV/ER vendors are not doing theirs. So my job is to simulate a real attack against a client. The AV vendors have a job to do as well, and I'm not here to make it easier for them. If you're paying $112 a license, you better be working for the $112 a license.
For sure. Just for the sake of time.
And also with that, if you're executing, oh, go ahead.
No. Go ahead, Greg.
No, so if you're executing payloads live like an enterprise environment, all that telemetry is going to that EDR vendor's cloud. And like if they're paying for an MDR, that MDR should be catching everything and ripping those payloads apart, just like John said. They should be reversing them. For example, we did just an internal penetration test once, and we were using off-the-shelf tooling, and we found out later that the CrowdStrike Overwatch MDR team was supposed to be like watching their network, and they weren't at all, and that did not go over well for them. And then sometimes we do red team engagements and IPTs, and Overwatch like stops us in our tracks. It just depends.
Wow.
There's some weird rumors around that though, like top tier clients get Overwatch and the bottom of the barrel doesn't get good Overwatch. I don't know. Like, if you're going to pay $10 billion a year to CrowdStrike, you're going to get the best protection. If you're going to pay $200,000, you're not getting very good Overwatch. So to all the people on CrowdStrike, unfortunately, you are not my favorite. So
yeah. All right.
I publicly they got theirs. They got theirs.
Okay. Yeah, they did. They should. I mean, I do feel bad though because it's unfortunate.
Yeah. Have you heard the preliminary loss numbers? The Delta lost 500 million on that.
I don't know, dude. That seems pretty expensive, man. But was it like 4,900 flights they had to cancel? It was like something crazy, right?
Wow. Jeez.
Well, they couldn't bring in pilots or flight staff, right? It was crazy.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna keep this thing moving forward for approximately 8 to 10 more minutes here. So I just want to ask a couple more questions. Okay. What are some challenges you guys have faced as a cybersecurity firm, and how have you worked to overcome them in our industry?
Yeah, so I would say scaling has been very challenging because we're a boutique offensive cybersecurity consultancy. Like, this is not Walmart, right? This is more like Delta Force as opposed to Walmart. So that being said, like average can scale infinitely, where being elite or like boutique can scale incrementally. So we can only scale like incrementally across time, but our workload is going up exponentially. So balancing those two things, where we're looking for top talent while still building out the business and like, increasing our book of business, has been, I would say it's been very challenging for sure.
Yeah, that's one big area. Another area that I see is, operations as well. We have so many people now where it's getting hard to manage everybody correctly. So we're distributing tasks and management roles to other people. So that's also quite interesting, where it's not just me and Greg overseeing the entire staff now, because we're running out of cycles to be able to do that. So, making sure reports go out correctly, they're reviewed on time, making sure everything's done, to our standard of testing, because, it's our image. And we want our image to have, a proper and have a good reputation, along with the client receiving the proper type of testing, and it's not being, skated on the rug like, oh yeah, we did a job. That's not how it goes.
Yeah.
Everything gets QA, QC. There's no exceptions. So we just have to ensure that that's being followed.
Yeah. With a staff of 31, do you guys even get to do much of testing yourselves anymore? I mean, that's our roots, but do you still get your hands on it ever, or is it like you guys just
of course.
Yeah.
Yep. So we're both full-time teachers as well. So we both still teach full-time quite a bit. And we also write courses. We're both, and then say there's slack on jobs or engagements, we're both also on the rotation of the roster where we can be picked or chosen as billable for that client or do those jobs. Sometimes, as things go on, or say it's like, someone missed something and say, hey, go back and add this to report. You know how it is, man. Like, Sometimes people miss something, or it's like, hey, let's take another look, and I'll go look myself and say, hey, you missed this, this, and this. We're the founders of the company. My job is to be technically more, challenged or accessible than most of the people that we hire, right? That's my goal, is to stay current. Greg's the same way. We have multiple trainings, on the books this year just for me and him to stay current, do certifications and things like that. Even though we're both fathers and we both run, we're both very highly active. There's a very nice work balance here as well. So.
What do you think cybersecurity providers like yourselves can do to collaborate with the broader InfoSec community to maybe bring change? I mean, in a positive way, because you guys are, from the things I've heard and see you guys posting on LinkedIn, you guys are involved in conferences and you're doing trainings. But is there anything else that you would even recommend other cybersecurity firms to also do to bring change or improve or to get more involved, maybe to grow, but also to bring change?
Vincent, that question is near and dear to my heart. So we have a lot of initiatives at WKL where we try to give back to the community. One of them is we have a lot of interns. So we recently had 8 interns from Grand Valley State University, and we currently have 2 interns graduate level from Carnegie Mellon University that are building out some tooling for us on the private side. So we love giving back to the community on that front. And then also, if you pay attention to our LinkedIn profile for the company, we're always giving away free seats to our courses for offensive Azure, for advanced red team operations, for offensive development. We typically give away 10 to 15 free seats to veterans, the neurodivergent community, awesome. Minorities, stuff like that. As well as that, we're just active in the community, right? Like, so I'm actually on the computing board for Grand Valley State University. So I talk about their curriculum. I go and I meet with them about once a year, like make sure that their curriculums are relevant. I do the same thing for Grand Rapids Community College. I've got a great relationship with Dr. Christy Hake over there. She runs their computing department. And John's the same way. We're at a point in the company's life cycle where we can start to take on these initiatives and give back to the community, where when you're young and scrappy, it's all about, hey man, I need to make money right now to survive. So we're getting a little bit out of that mindset.
Oh.
Yeah, and to add on to that, so Greg has his own initiative. I have mine as well, and so Greg, just so you know, I don't know if you know these, but we've given away over 100 seats of training just along this year. So we've given away over 100 seats of free training to people who really were in need. So that's one big initiative that I love to do, is give away free training. And it really helps, right? It shows. And that's something that you don't ever see a lot of other training companies do, is giving away free seats for nothing, right? So I think that's really important, because, our goal is to, who's going to replace us when we're done? There's a key factor there that, we have to have replacements. Someone has to know how to do our jobs when we're done doing our jobs, right? Whether that's in 10, 15 years or not. Another thing they like to do is something that we've been trying to execute on. It hasn't successfully landed yet, but I would like to test 4 nonprofits or four nonprofits a year that would really need, has no security budget, has no security team, that really need testing, right? Like any foundations that actually, give their money away, to actually people in need. So we're looking for 4 foundations a year would be the goal. So 4 nonprofits. Okay. So
to make it more relevant to where 3 Nails is at, I'm curious what other recommendations you would give, growing boutique firms, on the smaller side, and Greg, you just described it well, kind of in that place, like you just got to focus on bringing in clients right now, like doing all the extra developing and course stuff and like being involved in different things it's not manageable yet. We're getting to that point, but for firms wanting to actually make a difference in the industry, I have a big bleeding heart for, I want to bring the most value possible and actually bring change to your organization through the adoption of a security culture and mindset and continuous testing to ensure that things actually change. But what other things can you guys sort of give to me or give to other small, cybersecurity firms growing that could really be the most impactful thing at the early stages?
Yeah, so definitely, the penetration test is your foot in the door. Offer a penetration test, internal, external, offer ransomware simulation. Really ask the client, where are your biggest pain points regarding security? Like, what are you really afraid of happening? Is it a business email compromise? Is it a ransomware situation? Are you worried about your brand? And then really focus on the crown jewels and harm the crown jewels during the engagement. Don't just run Nessus. Don't just run Nmap and try to get DA. Like, show the value where, like, hey, they have proprietary source code and blueprints on an open file share. I don't need credentials. And it's right there, right? So things like that, understanding how you can be a risk to the business as opposed to just be hands-on keyboard. Like, you need to be almost take yourself hands off keyboard and be more strategic. Where does this company want to be in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and help them get them there? Be their security advisor. Hey, they want to develop a DevSecOps program. Help them do that. Hey, they want to like pivot to the cloud. We want to secure their cloud infrastructure before moving those web apps into Azure or AWS. Help them do that. Go ahead, John. I can talk about that forever.
No, yeah, it's good. I have one that I really like. If everybody knows about it, especially if you've taken my training, anybody listening here, so I've used this frame is how would I cripple the business to their knees? I use it on all my client calls because what clients don't understand is if I wanted to make them shut their doors, how would I do it? Right? How would I make them shut their doors? Is that stealing, encrypting file shares, taking AWS backups, taking down the VMs, compromising all emails, locking out users for weeks? How do I get that business to shut down? As a business owner, could you imagine, someone ransomware, doing a ransomware attack against me and having to shut my doors after building this company for years and years, over 3 weeks of not being able to make money? Could you imagine that? So it's like, when you talk to the security guys, do they really understand how the business operates and what actually, where the revenue actually comes from? And they don't. So you gotta get the right people in the call to really make the change inside the company. Because how does that, a medical company has to be able to sell, EMR software, be able to do medical records or something. If all that data is gone, they're not making any money, right? They can still treat patients, sure, but how do they know what to treat them with? Things like that. All the systems come down, so they're going to shut the doors eventually. Happens all the time. So that's where you need to focus your efforts on. Sometimes a pen test is not what they need, and it's actually something else.
Did you guys focus on specific verticals to start as well, or did you kind of just spread the net wide?
Everything other than government. We did not bid on RFPs, and we stayed away from that lane there since it's pretty saturated right now. We are doing now government testing as well, but that was not the first vertical we focused on. So,
okay, awesome. Well, I think we're at time, so to avoid this thing going for another 30 minutes, because I think it easily could, I just want to thank you guys for joining today. It was really insightful for me, for Three Nails, for our team. And we're looking forward to watching WKL really grow and just become a staple in the cybersecurity industry. So thank you guys for joining up. If anybody wants to contact these guys, they're very active on LinkedIn, whiteknightlabs.com, right, John?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Okay. So they can be reached there, or Twitter, I'm sure. So appreciate you guys coming on today. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for
having us, Vincent.
All right. Thanks, everybody.